Rhinos. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to cut the music short there because our D race is starting in just under a minute now. And I wanted to take a minute to look at the elevation profile real quick before we started. You can see we're in Bologna this week for the TT course, and we're starting out on the flats here, a little bit of a descent, and we've got this big kicker at the end. That climb is going to be the decision point on today's course. Now, I believe the way we're running it today is categories, staggered starts for categories. All riders go off at the same time, but draft is turned off, so it is TT styled. All right, let's get right into the pens here. I'm awaiting the start of the D race right now, which is just about 3 seconds out. Here you go. Looks like our D racers are off. See if I can catch up with M. Raymond. I believe he may be our only D racer out on course today. I don't see any other Ds. I'm checking the Zwift companion app right now to see if anybody else was signed up. Looks like Graham Corbett and Matthew Raymond were our only two Rhinos signed up in the D pens, and I don't see Graham, so looks like Matthew's riding alone for the Ds today. So I'd say it's probably pretty likely that our Bs or Cs will catch him. Now, the way that the Rhino v Rhino usually works is it's a chase race style race here. So the categories are competing against each other, but then you're also competing within your own category. So Matthew Raymond won't have much of a hard time winning in the D category today, as he's the only rider, but it is up to him to keep off the other categories in terms of the category competition. So we'll just have to see how fast our Cs come out of the gate. Looks like quite a few more of them. Looking on the Zwift companion app right here, looks like 12 signups in the C category, and they head off just 2 minutes after the Ds, with the Bs departing 2 minutes after them, and the As 2 minutes after that. Our only A rider signed up today is James McGill, it looks like. So he will also be a lone rider in his category. And thank you real quick to everybody in the chat for letting me know that you can hear me, because just a bit of a funny story. The other day I tried to do a stream of a sprint race and had my microphone on mute the entire time, so that was smart. But either way, it looks like we're up to 1 minute and 15 seconds of elapsed time here, which means our Cs are going to be setting off in just about 45 seconds. And you can see on the mini-map in the upper right-hand corner here, we're just about halfway through this little descent section. Then it's quite a bit of flat before we hit the first climb there. And if I'm looking at some of the route specs for today, it looks like our length on the course today is going to be 8 kilometers. That is 5 miles for those of you here in the US. Like me, elevation 230 meters or 755 feet. Well, we're not doing laps really, but 1 lap, and that 1 KOM segment is the only real climb out there on course. There we go, 2 minutes elapsed time. That means our Cs have just set off as well. We can head back with them, see what they're up to farther back on course. Looks like Chris Homer from the Rhinos is leading out. So these Rhinos will be riding in a bunch here, our Cs and Bs, but draft is turned off, so they will not be getting the benefit of the draft. Looks like K. Homer setting a nice pace here. 3.6 watts per kilograms. That's a nice way to start out. And Homer can hold this. That would be Tim Homer can hold this. I'd say that's a good pace to head up into the KOM with. Let's see if we can see any of the other riders a little bit farther back here. Looks like we've got a group of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 riders riding pretty close to each other here. Looks like Kim Homer still on the front, now pushing 3.2 watts per kilograms. You can see, well, just over a minute of elapsed time, so we're just about a minute to the start of our B race here as well. M. Tandy moving up here as well. Jonathan Lastman's right there in the white helmet. Can't usually really use jerseys in this race, as all the riders are going to be wearing relatively the same jersey. That's our Camo 1 jersey that the Rhinos wear. There we go. Kim Homer has been passed out. Looks like it's going to be M. Tandy taking over on the front. That is Michael Tandy, of course, from the Rhinos. And looks like our B's getting ready to start in just about 10 seconds now. Here we go. A little bit farther back. Looks like Gordon Sloan is our supreme leader, of course. Just a little bit off the back. And these riders kind of all riding a little bit more bunched up. We've got Brent Cunningham, iRaider, and Gareth Rogers all right here. Pretty close together. There we go. 2 minutes and 11 seconds of elapsed time. See if we can jump back with our B's. So heading over into our B's now. I'm just waiting for... There we go. They've popped up on the leaderboard here, so we can head back with Kevin Buckley. Looks like he's the one leading out in terms of the B category. Nicholas Goslin just a little bit farther behind, about 5 seconds here. So right now, Kevin Buckley setting the pace for our B's. And I believe we only had one A today, and that was James McGill, if I remember correctly. Nicholas Goslin making up a little bit of time here, pushing higher watts per kilo than Kevin Buckley. 4.0 there from Nicholas, and about 3.2 from Kevin. So it looks like Nicholas Goslin closing down that gap. Now about 4 seconds to him. We go back a little bit farther. Here's Goslin. Tom Fitton just 1 second behind Nicholas, and Steven Swan 2 seconds behind him. Now, it is a TT race, meaning no draft, but we might still see a bit of a sprint finish at the end because the riders are riding in fairly close proximity here. They are racing against the clock, of course, but because they all started at the same time, it will be the first rider to the finish line who wins today's race. So it makes it nice and easy to tell who our winner is today. And there we go, our A race, which consists of entirely James McGill, starting in just about 5 seconds here. We'll jump back with him real quick, and it looks like he is on course, just coming through the banner there. He is pushing pretty high pace here, just getting up to speed at 5 watts per kilograms. That's usually the way to go in the start of a time trial, so James McGill knows what he's doing here. And he's pushing around 29 miles per hour. I meant to switch that over to kilometers per hour, but I think a lot of our UK Rhinos do know miles per hour as well. So about 34 miles per hour here on a negative 2% gradient. Moving pretty fast. We can see the gaps, 2 minutes and 43 seconds to the back of the B field with S. Beer here. A little bit farther, it looks like 14 seconds is the spread on the B field from Nicholas Goslin back to S. Beer. And I see Randoner's Transylvania back here as well. I'm thinking maybe he missed the start because he's almost 2 minutes behind Nicholas Goslin here. Let's go to the front of the C race, see what kind of progress they're making on Matt Raymond, our lone D Rhino. There we go. Looks like the gap is around 1 minute and 20 seconds. Although we have not hit the KOM yet. Looks like Jonathan Lastman moving towards Matt Raymond pretty fast here, closing that gap down a little bit. Just fell from 1 minute and 20 down to 1 minute and 15 as we're watching right here. And in the C race, it looks like Tim Homer and Michael Tandy are just a little ways behind Lastman here at the front of the C race. The spread on our C race about 19 seconds here with O'Ritali from the Rhinos, like everybody else in this race, at the back here. Just about 19 seconds, 20 seconds off the back there. Our supreme leader, Gordon Sloan, also back here on the wheel of Robert Homer. These two pushing around 2.5 watts per kilograms, 2.6 here, so a slightly slower pace than our riders at the front, Tim Homer, Jonathan Lastman. Homer now up to 3.7 watts per kilos. Power is everything here on this little flat section. It'll be interesting to see what happens once we hit the climb, though, and that gap definitely coming down between Jonathan Lastman and Matt Raymond. I'd say he'll catch him pretty early on the climb, now only 56 seconds. Raymond on the early slopes of the climb here, 1% gradient. And kind of a fun fact, I never have actually ridden in Bologna, so... Oh, looks like Ed's Lammy in the chat says, couldn't make it today after my 10-mile run. So, sorry to hear that, Eds. It's always fun watching you in the B race. Ed Lammy, one of our fastest B riders here at the Rhinos. And speaking of the B race, let's go back in with Nicholas Goslin. He's making some progress on our C riders as well. We can see Rob Homer at the back there. That gap from Goslin to Homer now down to 1:19 and falling. And the spread on our C riders not that huge, only about 20 seconds, which means once Nicholas comes in contact with the back of that C group, it won't be long before he's moved all the way up to the front. I think our Bs definitely have a good shot at the win today. Looks like James McGill is sitting about 2 minutes and 36 seconds back from our leader of the B race, Goslin here. So that gap has definitely come down roughly 20 seconds since our start. Give a ride on to Nicholas there, pushing a pretty high pace at the front of the Bs here. We can see right around and above 4 watts per kilograms he's been holding steady at, with Kevin Buckley just behind around 3.8. Only a 2-second difference there. Buckley could still easily catch Goslin. He's in sight here, just going around the corner. Goslin, then Buckley. Another 8 seconds back to Tom Fitton. That's a bit more of a gap, but you can see not too much. Our lead Rhinos just came around this corner, so not a huge spread on the B field either. Roughly 14 seconds, excluding Brent Joniers, who I believe missed the start. He's 2 minutes and 46 seconds back. So roughly 20 seconds in both our C races and B races from the back of the field to the front. But we'll see, that could all change as we hit the climb. And our Bs are just now starting on the early slopes of the climb here. 1% gradient. That's not too severe, but you can tell that our climb is starting. We're going to hook around this right-hand bend here. A couple turns here. You saw it just got up to 4% gradient there. So I think it's time to head up with the front of our race. That is our D race, although soon to be our C race, actually. Kim Homer catching our lone D rider pretty fast. Matt Raymond, now the gap from him to Kim Homer is only 13 seconds. So that gap will most likely come down pretty fast on this KOM here. I'd say before long, the two will be in sight of each other. You can see on the minimap in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, Raymond has just come around that first turn on the climb into this 10% gradient section, and now Kim Homer coming up behind him. We can see the distance ticking down. 30 meters here, soon to hit 20. He's coming onto him pretty fast, 4 watts per kilograms. Kim Homer's pushing a high speed here. We go just a 1 second gap now. It's like Kim Homer on our standard Zwift TT bike. Matt Raymond as well. Interesting to see bike choice out here. Can jump back with M. Tandy here. Let's see what he's riding. Looks like a Tron bike from the back. It's definitely glowing. Yeah, definitely a Tron bike there. So the gaps now, Kim Homer has about 10 seconds to M. Tandy here. Just 10 seconds is definitely, you can see they're still in sight of each other, so Tandy could still definitely close that, although the gap's going out 12 seconds now, and it looks like Tandy's just about to sweep up Raymond here on the early slopes of this climb. 3.8 miles in here, standard distance. It's really easy to tell, 5-mile race, 8-kilometer race, so the riders will know when they're nearing the finish line. Our C's here, the leading C's, still have about 1.2 miles left to go, and the gradient at 12%, that is tough. 12% gradient, 13% gradient, no fun, and it's definitely a place where trainer difficulty can come into play as well. Let's see. Checking in on the chat real quick here. Random Cyclist says, I believe that's Dave Townley, but I'm not positive on that. Says Gordon and Rob with Arrow Afro. Yup, that's definitely been their hair of choice, I feel like, for a little while now. See if I can find Rob here. There we go. Rob Homer with that Arrow Afro that Random Cyclist was just mentioning in the chat. And if you haven't, definitely check out Random Cyclist channel. He streams some of our Rhino races there. Gordon Sloan, 25 seconds behind here. The plaque is definitely starting to split. from our lead C riders, it looks like it's a gap of about 1 minute and 11 seconds now. And our Bs have moved up through the back of the C field here. Nicholas Goslin pushing some high numbers, and he is only 12 seconds off Kim Homer. That gap is coming down quite fast. I think we're set to see our Bs take over in the lead quite soon here. Kim Homer still keeping up the pace there with 3.6 watts per kilos, 3.7 now. So we'll see if Goslin can close this down fast enough. The great thing, or the grueling thing about a climb like this is when you're on 12% gradient here, 4 seconds means that you can see the rider just there right in front of you. You can see that little group of Brent Cunningham, M. Tandy, and Gareth Rogers. They're all just teasing Nicholas right now. 3 seconds ahead of him, he can see them. They're within sight, but the gradient's just so steep, you don't close that kind of gap quite as fast. Here we go. He's coming back onto them here. They seem so close, but it takes a little longer than you would expect to close down a gap like that. Now, 1 second, Goslin is going to blow through this group, it looks like, and then it's home free. The only Rhino he has left to catch is Kim Homer on the front there, 13-second gap as of right now. And I think it's time we check back on our A race, which is, of course, just James McGill, our only A racer out there right now. He has just started this little section that I already feel like we've been on forever, because we were with this for when our D racers hit this, and then when our C racers, B racers, and now our A racers just starting this climb. Meanwhile, you can see on the minimap, it's a little hard to see on the elevation profile there, but riders at the front here, that would be Kim Homer leading it out, and then Nicholas Goslin probably sitting right around second position on the road out of all categories right now, are about halfway through this climb. It flattens out in the middle there for just a minute before it kicks back up again. We finish at the top, as you can see, at that orange Zwift marker on the top of the climb. So it does flatten out a little at the top of the climb as well. But in general, not a lot of respite. Steep gradients here, and James McGill making good work of this. 5 watts per kilos. He's holding this pretty steady, and he's closing down gaps as well. Looks like Gordon Sloan only 4 seconds off of James McGill now. That gap has come down quite a bit. S. Beer, Matt Raymond, our lead D rider, also now only down to 10 seconds. So these gaps are quite exciting to watch here. We can see McGill has been on the road for about 10 minutes now, 10 minutes, 35 seconds. So it really is a short race. I'd say he finishes this one maybe around 15 minutes, probably under 15 minutes, just under, I'd say. Moving back up to the front here, looks like Kim Homer is losing that lead to Goslin. Nicholas Goslin has brought it down to 4 seconds, and Kevin Buckley chasing down Goslin as well. He was distanced quite a bit, about 10 seconds there at one point, but it looks like the climb has helped him bring it back here. He's pushing just about a half a watt per kilo above Goslin, and he's now just about, looks like he ghosted there for a minute maybe. Also on the Tron bike, he's just about to overtake him. I don't know, looks like Goslin riding away again, but these two riders pretty close together. It would be great if we could see a sprint on the line between these two. So Nicholas, Kevin, if you're listening to me, please stay together until the top so that we can see a sprint, because a sprint would be exciting considering it's a time trial. No pressure though. All right, moving up to the leader of our C race. This is Kim Homer. Now only got 2 seconds to Nicholas, so I'd say this gap, well, it'll definitely be closed by the top, but probably even within the next couple minutes. Here, 1 second now, and it's nice to look at the differences in watts per kilograms here, because they're really not that huge. It looks like Kim Homer, I'd say at the end of this race, is going to average around 3.6 or 3.7 watts per kilo. That's about what we're at right now, and Nicholas Goslin has been holding it pretty steady around 4, but those differences are really amplified on the climbs like this, because Goslin has now brought in that gap down to 1 second, and it looks like he's just about to overtake Kim Homer here. Kevin Buckley just off the wheel. If we move to our drone view here, we can probably see all 3 of these riders coming up the climb here. Just about to round this right-hand turn. And I believe it flattens out. I shouldn't say flattens, but I believe the gradient eases off for just a minute here, not quite 15%. You can see we're dropping down to 13 here, and I think it might even get down as far as 12 or 11. I might be wrong about that, though. I haven't actually ever ridden in Bologna. Just watched a couple races here. Yeah, there you go. You can see right there, right at the crest of the hill, the road flattens out a little bit, and there we go. Kim Homer has been caught by our two lead bees, Nicholas Goslin and Kevin Buckley. Once again, looking at bike choice here. Sorry about that. See if I can zoom in. Looks like Nicholas Goslin on an S-Works there. That's their TT bike, and I don't actually remember the name of that. And then moving back to take a look at Kevin Buckley real quick here. Looks like he's on the Tron, as you can clearly see from those glowing orange wheels. Switch back to this view. That gap just holding steady around 1 second, so I'm going to repeat myself for emphasis. You guys can hear me. We need a sprint finish at the top. Just a joke, of course. Both of you do your best. There we go. James McGill now. Oh, sorry, I was just about to jump in with him. We had a little issue with the leaderboard there. But back, looks like it's only about 25 seconds. Oh, out to 30 now. I stand corrected. But just about 31 seconds between McGill and Goslin. This could be a tight race. This one could even come down to the line as well. Although it looks now like Nicholas Goslin and Kevin Buckley have hit a little bit of a flat section here, which James McGill is just now getting on to 1% gradient, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. So that should help him bring back the gap a little bit, because he was on a 14% section there, while our lead bees were on something much flatter. But I don't know if he has enough time. I'd say if this climb were a few tenths of a mile longer, he'd be able to reel back in Nicholas Goslin and Kevin Buckley. He's pushing 5.5 watts per kilo. I'd say he's been averaging around 5, maybe 5.2. And the gap now 25 seconds. So just have to see if our lead bees can hold this all the way to the line. 6% gradient now. It's really flattening out here at the top of the Bologna TT course. McGill now with 24 seconds. So this is going to be a tight one all the way to the line. But I think my money's on the bees for this one. One thing I should point out here, though, is that Kevin Buckley has caught and passed Nicholas Goslin, now pushing 5.5 watts per kilo. There you go. You can see the banner on the mini-map right there, and it looks like Kevin Buckley has the leg, 6 watts per kilo, and there's the banner all over for Nicholas Goslin. Or I shouldn't say all over. Second place is great, too. But I don't know. I wasn't expecting that one. Nicholas Goslin looking strong all the way up the climb, but Kevin Buckley just having that final kick, and I would take it to a replay there, but I don't want to miss the finish of James McGill here, just about 30 seconds behind. We'll be able to see that finishing banner on the minimap in just a couple minutes. In fact, if I zoom out, you can see it's right up there where those orange pins are. That marks my, looks like they just disappeared, but you can kind of see the banner up there. Here we go, coming around the corner. Looks like James McGill was able to catch all the bees except for 2. Big sprint to the line, 10 watts per kilo. We'll jump back with Steve Swan. He's going to be our 3rd bee to finish up today. And a congrats to James McGill on that finish. James McGill, the winner of the A race. Also the only A out there today. Steve Swan just took up 3rd in our B race. And we're now jumping back with Brent Cunningham. I think Brent, looks like he's the 2nd rider on the road. Did we miss the finish of Kim Homer? I'm thinking maybe we did, and I apologize for that. But here we go. Brent's going to roll through the line in 2nd here. We can see him coming up here. Whoops, sorry about that. There you go, through the line. Rutali gonna take 3rd, I believe, and Gareth Rogers bringing up, well, not quite bringing up the top 5. Oh, Tom Fitton just passing him right there. Fitton, I believe, is going to be 4th over the line in our B race. Just waiting for confirmation on that. Doesn't look like it's going to come, but Gareth Rogers 4th in the C race. Sorry about that. Jump back up with these guys here. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to try and get back into the race via the Zwift companion app. Although I can tell you who's going to win our D race and that is going to be Matthew Raymond because he's our only D racer out there. So I already know who's going to win the D race, but I'll jump in with him anyway. There we go. Here we go. In with Matthew Raymond now. And Rob Homer looks like he's just about to finish a little bit farther up on the road. Here we go. With the Arrow Afro, as Dave Digger Townley so nicely called it. Thought that was a fitting name. Here we go. Back with Matthew Raymond. He's just 0.3 of a mile out from the top of this climb here. I believe that's a quarter of a kilometer, but the gradient does get up to 10% here. It's steep, so it'll take a little while. Let's see if we can catch the finish of our supreme leader, Gordon Sloan, before the finish to our D race there. Check in on the chat real quick. Yep. Ed's Lammy says, haha, Nicholas would destroy me today with his pure power. Eds, I'm not sure if that's true. You're a good climber also. But Nicholas definitely destroyed today, as did Kevin Buckley, who won our B race. And if you don't mind me asking, it'd be a huge help if you could hit the like button real quick. Helps out the channel. So don't forget to like the stream if you're enjoying, and maybe even drop us a subscribe here at the Zwift race. But either way, back to the race. We can see the banner on the minimap now, and we can see it now as we come around the corner. I think Gordon Sloan deserves a round of applause for this finish, as the leader of the Rhinos does so much for all us Rhinos racing out there. So all of you all around the world can give him a little round of applause at the top of the climb here. But we'll jump back with Matthew Raymond, because this is going to be our leader of the D race. Round of applause for him as well. We're gonna feel like we already checked in on the bike choice here. Yep, that is the Zwift TT bike. And he's gonna finish in just around 26 minutes, I'd say, 26 and a half here. We can see the banner. Yeah, so I think it'll be around 26 minutes for Matthew Raymond. And I think that's our last rider out on course. Winner of the D race here, Matthew Raymond. Nice job. And there we go. That is our complete Rhino v Rhino race. Now, for anybody who's watching and is not a Rhino, we are planning to take this race public in I guess I'll say an undetermined amount of time, because we're not sure about that. But if you would like to race, we don't have a for sure way of getting in touch with you, but I think just leave a comment down below this video, and I'll figure out a way to get you in touch with the right people if you want an invite to the race, because it is right now a private event link. All right, that concludes our stream today. Yeah, as Lammy said, Kim is booking it today, and I believe that Kim Homer was the winner of the C race. I think I missed that finish, and I do apologize for that. I was trying to catch that exciting finish between... Yeah, there we go. Gordon Sloan confirmed in the chat, open to private invites. So right now, you can probably even get in touch with us in the chat if you're interested in getting an invite, although I doubt there's anybody who's not a Rhino out there watching. But yeah, Kim Homer really was booking it today, and believe Homer won the C race. No problem, Gordon. Thanks for letting me do this. And all right, I think that's just about all we have for you today. If you don't mind, like the video, maybe even subscribe to the Zwift Race Place. It'd be a huge help for me. And I might see you next week, depending on how dead my legs are after the 3-hour endurance series. Great racing, everyone. And I'm looking forward to the start of ZRL Season 3, as I'm sure many of you are. So